Good morning, August 11th. You disobey not because you lack the God-given grace to obey, but because you love something more than God. You love something more than the God who's given you that grace. Your disobedience is never God's fault. Maybe you're thinking, of course it's not, Paul. You don't really think that I think that, do you? As much as we know theologically that God is not responsible for our behavior, we have subtle ways we have subtle ways of shifting the blame to him. We say, if only my pastor was more available in times of need, then I would have. If only I had a better job at the time, I wouldn't have. If only my parents had been better models for me, I could have. If only I had come to Christ earlier in my life, I'm sure I would have. If only I hadn't gotten sick, there would have. If only my husband had been more romantic, I wouldn't have. If only my children weren't so rebellious, I wouldn't be. If only there weren't so much pornography on the internet, I wouldn't have been tempted to. If only I weren't so busy, I could take more time to. If God is present with you everywhere you go, and He is, and if He is sovereign over every situation, relationship, and location of your life, and He is, then when you blame other people for your circumstances or for the wrongs that you do, you are in fact blaming God. You are saying that God didn't give you what you needed to be what He has called you to be, and to do what He has called you to do. You are essentially saying, my problem isn't a heart problem. My problem is a poverty of grace problem. If only God had given me blank, I wouldn't have had to do what I did. This is the final argument of a self-excusing lifestyle. This argument was first made in the Garden of Eden after the rebellion of Adam and Eve. Adam, the woman you gave me made me do it. Eve, the devil made me do it. It is the age-old self-defensive lie of a person who doesn't want to face the ugliness of the sin that still resides in his heart or her heart. It is hard for us to accept that our words and behavior are not caused by what's outside us, but by what's inside us. See Luke chapter 6, verse 43 to 45. But the scriptures are clear that every wrong you and I do flows out of the thoughts and desires of our hearts. It is only when you admit and confess this that you begin to feel the need for and get excited about God's grace. If you have convinced yourself that you're not your problem, but people and situations are, you are not excited about God's provision of powerful forgiving and transforming grace, because frankly, you don't think you need it. For many of us, subtle patterns of blaming God are in the way of receiving grace that we need at the very moment we are working to convince ourselves that we don't need it. For further study and encouragement, Deuteronomy 30. Deuteronomy 30. The blessing of returning to God. Now it shall come to pass, when all these things come upon you. Sorry, my work Slack pinging me. The blessing of returning to God. Now it shall come to pass, when all these things come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you call them to mind among all the nations where the Lord your God drives you. And you return to the Lord your God and obey his voice, according to all that I command you today, you and your children, with all your heart and with all your soul, that the Lord your God will bring you back from captivity and have compassion on you, and gather you again from all the nations where the Lord your God has scattered you. If any of you are driven out to the farthest parts under heaven, from there the Lord your God will gather you, and from there he will bring you. Then the Lord your God will bring you to the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it. He will prosper you and multiply you more than your fathers. And the Lord your God will circumcise your heart and the heart of your descendants, to love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, that you may live. Also the Lord your God will put all these curses on your enemies and on those who hate you, who persecuted you, and you will again obey the voice of the Lord and do all his commandments which I command you today. The Lord your God will make you abound in all the work of your hand, in the fruit of your body, in the increase of your livestock, and in the produce of your land for good. For the Lord will again rejoice over you for good, as he rejoiced over your fathers, if you obey the voice of the Lord your God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which are written in his book of the law. And if you turn to the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. The choice of life or death. For his commandment, which I command you today, is not too mysterious for you, nor is it far off. It is not in heaven, that you should say, who will ascend into heaven for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it? Nor is it beyond the sea, that you would say, who will go over the sea for us and bring it to us, that we may hear it and do it? But the word is very near you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it. See, I have set before you today life and good, death and evil. And in that I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments, his statutes, and his judgments, that you may live and multiply, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land which you go to possess. But if your heart turns away so that you do not hear, and are drawn away, and worship other gods and serve them, I announce to you today that you shall surely perish. You shall not prolong your days in the land which you cross over the Jordan to go in and possess. I call heaven and earth as witnesses today against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that both you and your descendants may live, that you may love the Lord your God, that you may obey his voice, and that you may cling to him, for he is your life and the length of your days, and that you may dwell in the land which the Lord swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give them. Amen. Have a great day.